Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Laura, and welcome to another episode of Where Work Meets Life. This episode is around advocating for a better world. We're going to talk about the LiLoHia Project, and I'm just delighted to have here on the show Sass Jordan and Gerald Auger. And we are going to have a very interesting and important conversation about LiLoHia and what it is and how we need more love, light, and gratitude in this challenging world. Sass Jordan. Well, she's a performer and a healing artist. I've gotten to know Sass recently, and I think she's a most talented and amazing human being. She's known as Canada's Queen of Rock and the Blues. She was born in the UK, but actually grew up and came into her singing and musical career in the 70s in Montreal. So she was part of the Montreal music culture. She's done incredible things in the music industry. Very few female singers are their name is used to describe a sound style, and Sass is one of them. She's been on numerous television shows with her music. She starred as one of the main judges on Canadian Idol, and she has joined forces with Gerald to share their life experiences on their respective healing and spiritual journeys through LiLoHia. And I could say more and more about Sass, but you'll get to know her more on this episode. And then my brother, Gerald Auger, I call him my brother from another mother. Gerald is of Woodland Cree descent. He's a national Native role model, spiritual leader, and award-winning storyteller. He's been in Hollywood for 20 years of his career, then came back to Canada, and he still works in front of and behind the camera. He has survived a lot in his life and really thrived as a spiritual leader, helping many people by reconnecting with Creator, his ancestors, elders, through ceremonies and teachings. So welcome to the show, Sass and Gerald.
Woohoo! Thank you for having us, sister.
It is my pleasure. So I'm going to start with you, Sass, and get us a little more info about, where you are at today in your career and why are you drawn to spreading this message of love, light, and gratitude?
Where I am, that's a thing. That's a really big thing right now, is just trying to stay centered in this now moment. We've been hearing about that for years, and it's brilliant advice if you ask me, because when you start getting caught up in the future or the past, right, that's when you start going nuts. Just like, oh my God, why did I do that? Oh God, what's happening? What's going to happen? So where am I on my career? I'm at a point in my career, I think, where I'm much more interested in the healing aspects of music, like the frequencies, the tones, and the actual energy that you are putting into the sound, the actual energy that you're putting into the sound.
Awesome. So LiLoHia, what brought you here collaborating with Gerald on the LiLoHia project?
Gerald and I had been talking about doing something together because we both are very intent and focused on healing ourselves and being of assistance in any way that we can to others who want to heal themselves, And so LiLoHia is really, it's almost like a recipe. It's a recipe for love, light, and gratitude. You'll find light being, that's something that you just emit naturally because you are a being of light. So, but when you're using the higher frequencies of light through thought, through mind and heart, then you are actually tapping into the healing frequencies of light. I mean, light is actually a carrier of information, as is sound, and love is the information.
Beautifully put. Gerald, can you elaborate a little further on this LiLoHia project? What does the name mean? Where did it come from? And what are you trying to do for the world?
Well, it's not about so much trying to do, we are actually doing it. And that, in a sense of that, the world is going through this global shift in consciousness, and people are trying to make sense of why is the world falling apart? Why are things falling away from my life, but other things are also falling into place? Why are my dreams getting very vivid? Why do I keep seeing these repeating numbers? Why do I keep having these multiple deja vus, synchronicities, and what the world knows as coincidences, which are actually spiritual nuances? People are trying to make sense of why they know the world is changing, but they don't understand what the change is all about. So with me and my sister, what we're doing, what we talk about, we have candid conversations about what's going on in the world and why we run into people, why we come into situations, why people, places, and things are put in our path for, and it's really here to teach us about life and to teach us about where we are and where we need to be in life. So, so for me, that's what LiLoHia is about, is trying to make sense of a world that's shifting itself to correct itself. And a lot of people are are realizing there's something not right or something out of place in their life. And it's through these conversations that me and my sister have with others, like our special guest in one of our premiere episodes is going to be George Canyon, right? And it's really, at the end of the day, about the prophecy of the artist, where Louis Riel said, "My people will sleep for 100 years, and when they awake, it will be the artist who will give them back their spirit," right? So my sister being musician, me being a storyteller, and everything, that all these artists are coming together. So we're just trying. We are making we're making sense of what's going on based on what we've had to do for ourselves, having lived this shift and continue living this shift. So yeah.
Beautiful. And so LiLoHia, if I understand correctly, Sass, you came up with that name originally, am I right?
Yeah. When I write a song, I'll often have a title first before I even have a song. I've done that a lot of times, actually. So it's like the title, and now the song comes out of the title. It's like the root, And so we came up with this: light, Li, love, lo, Haya, gratitude, in Gerald's language, and well, one of the meanings, right, Gerald?
Yes, exactly.
So thank you, really, right?
Yeah, that's what it means. Yes, gratitude.
Gratitude. Yeah, and because we saw it as really a recipe healing, because everything starts with self healing. You can't heal someone else, or they have to do it themselves. It's like saying, here, I'll eat your dinner for you. Actually, I wouldn't mind that. but
So I love the name, and the interesting thing is they asked me, could you interview us? So the two of them, so Gerald and Sass and their friend George Canyon, in a panel style interview, and then a series of discussions about this rise in consciousness, spirituality. What is that? And I've been really diving into this over the last few years in my own journey and my own growth and evolution as a human soul or a human being who is really searching for the bigger picture, the broader connection that we all have as human beings. And as the world becomes, I'd say, increasingly uncertain. There's a lot of challenges out there. In my field of psychology, I certainly hear and see a lot of people who are suffering deeply. And I wanted to do my part in both educating myself and then sharing this discussion with others. So I'm just delighted that I actually got to be part of these interviews. And let me tell you that when LiLoHia launches, I think there's going to be a lot of important growth and learning through it. So I really do. So tell us about this LiLoHia. So when does it, happen? Obviously, this episode's coming out on the 28th of the month, and it's going to be launched by then. But tell us how people can find it and follow it, and who might be interested in listening to these discussions. Gerald, would you like to go first?
Yeah, let's start with that. We're launching, me and my sister talked about that we would launch something regarding LiLoHia at every solstice. So we're launching the informative series online March the 21st, the spring solstice, which is new beginnings, part of the new beginnings. And then in June the 21st, the summer solstice, we're wanting to do a live event along with a healing summit. And then September, we will look at what we can do in September because we're going with real time in life, or what's really going on in life, right? With doing something with LiLoHia every solstice, we're wanting to introduce to the world what we talk about the 1328 frequency, which is there's a full moon every 28 days, 13 times of the year, which is real time, which is creator's time, as opposed to the 1260 frequency, which is 60 seconds to a minute, 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, 12 months of the year, which is artificial time, which is a clock on a calendar you'll never catch up to. So we want to show the people how you can find that balance in this world that's shifting, because what's really going on with part of why I love what we're doing with LiLoHia is we're wanting to introduce the spiritual component to life that the world has forgotten about. They have forgotten that there's a greater power at work with everything that's going on. And the artists that I know, like my sister, of who she is, artists already plugged into a different frequency, to a different vibration, to a source, and they're able to channel and be those conduits, right, for their higher powers. So that's and we'll be on YouTube, we'll be on TikTok, we'll be on Instagram, we'll be on Twitter, Facebook, all these social media platforms.
Because there's such a demand right now to understand, and people, like my brother said, there's so many people, even us, that we're saying, what the heck is going on? Something's off. It doesn't feel right. It's bizarre. Things have just been bizarre. And as much as they sort of seem, they're kind of like they used to be on the surface, there's still this underlying sense of confusion and a need really to connect with the self within, with oneself, because obviously that's really the only thing that's going to open up a path for you. People can point things, and that's like we're saying, people give you signposts, okay, try going that way, but you still have to walk the path yourself.
That's right. We're just fulfilling our commitment that we made to our higher power to help our fellow human beings. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So you're doing this to help other people. You're doing this to help, a better world, a better life for people. Am I understanding that correctly?
I would say that we're doing it primarily to help ourselves. When you help yourself, you help the world. It's just, it goes hand in hand. You can't help it, but we're not going out there saying, we know, we are we're these great teachers or anything. No. We're just, because we have the opportunity to have public platforms to some degree, we're just sharing our journey with anyone who's interested, and anyone who's not, they're not. Doesn't matter. But I think it's something, it's a collective growth that we're all going through. And, when you can lean on each other, someone else has a question and maybe you have an answer, but beyond anything that you say, it's you got to walk your talk. That is the key thing. And we're human, we're going to fall off the and every now and then you trip, right? But this part of LiLoHia is that we're here to go whoop, We'll help you back up. Come on, we can do it. We can do this. We got to do this together. This is a collective awakening, and because Gerald and I both have been interested in this kind of thing, and in our own separate ways, obviously, but in the end, it's all the same. But we've been interested in doing this for so many years. So we've done research. Gerald has his traditional background. I have been, researching because I love to do that, and also living it. We both lived it. I mean, everybody lives it too. This has been a very strong focus. So we have walked on these paths for a while, and so may be of assistance to others who are interested in joining us on it.
And I love the analogy of a path. We're all on different points of the path. And I know in 2019 is when I started to have a spiritual awakening, I guess you could call it. Life was just going along in the fast lane, busy, running businesses, 3 kids, whatever else on my plate. As if that wasn't enough, I was heavily involved in different boards and charity causes, etc. And then my nieces were murdered, my little nieces. And that was just such a shock. And that was just, wow. And then I had this affirmation, and we talk about that on the December 28th episode of my podcast with the homicide detective on the case, and how that affirmation impacted both of us, both him and I, and saying, this is not something we made up. This is something that we both experienced, and we want to share this as a positive affirmation that there's something bigger than us. And I was, maybe 90% sure then, and I was 100% sure after, and now I'm 110% sure. As I continue along this path, then COVID hit, and the mental health impacts of COVID. And meanwhile, I was, meditating, and on this, I was introduced to meditation. That wasn't for me before. I was moving too fast back then, but meditation helped ground me. And then here I am today, continuing along the path and learning and growing. So with that said, I just want to understand how this fits in, because people think spirituality is either hippies and incense or organized religion, but it's really not either of those things. So how would you describe spirituality from each of your lenses? So let's start with you, Sass.
I think spirituality to me is life. There's no separation between your practical everyday life and your spiritual self. What does it actually mean? What does spirituality mean? Well, to me, it means that it's an awareness of something beyond your 5 senses. And something greater than you are. In other words, something greater than your ego identity is. I heard the most amazing quote today. I told Gerald earlier, nature is truth. And the further you get from nature, the further you get from the truth. Nature, because we live in this online internet devices, it's like a virtual reality. So the truth, real reality, is nature. I mean, as far as I know. So spirituality is it's an integral component of daily life. It is something that you can't live without, like if you're going to feel comfortable in any way. Gerald, what do you say?
For me, spirituality is one word. It's creator. There's a higher power. It's the word spiritual. For me, is the dreams people have, the coincidences people have, the deja vus, the synchronicities. For me, it's where there's a veil in this physical world and what's beyond that veil is spirit world. And for me, that's part of understanding what spirituality is. And there's I follow what I call authentic 4-directional spirituality, where this spirituality that I know based on the truth comes from what my sister said, nature. from Mother Earth, from the elements, from the animals, from the plants, from the medicines, all of that. It's something that spirituality that you don't read, that I didn't read in a book. It's spirituality, something that I've lived it. And I love what my sister said with what LiLoHia is about is we have to live and lead by example. Me and my sister have lived life enough to understand that things, people, places, and things had been put on our path to teach us about this, to prepare us for this time. And that's why when I say the people are not sure what's going on in the world because they have forgotten their higher power, if that's Buddha, Allah, Jesus, God, Creator, they have forgotten that part because they have forgotten about the spiritual element of life. And the spiritual element is what our dreams consist of, the coincidences, the synchronicities, the things that are happening that. And when I say spiritual, they say the spirituality is returning back to humanity. I'm not talking Disney magic like Mickey Mouse and all that stuff. I'm talking about spirituality that we always knew, that the world knows as magic. We know it as spirituality. But we have to be very mindful and very careful because that source, that energy comes from the beginning of time, comes from different realms and different dimensions, and you need to understand it enough to respect it, to honor it for really what it is, right? So, but for me, at the end of the day, when you say what is spirituality, well, to me, it's the creator. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's really what I find is any, structure, institution, religion, etc., that is very judgmental about who can fit in and who can't fit in, and male versus female in terms of male domination of it. I have a real problem with now. I really do. And I think women are extremely powerful emotionally and spiritually, as Gerald always tells us. Emotionally, spiritually, what else?
Well, like I said last night, I was honored to be a part of the International Women's Day event here in Calgary that my sister made happen on my behalf. But a part of what happened is when August the 21st of 2017 happened, my late grandmother had told me in the 80s, there's going to come a time, Muti Nigan, she said, in the future, the woman's going to rise. And that happened August the 21st of 2017. And that's when my grandmother came to me from the spirit world and said to me, "Iguan maung gagitan nusim," said, "This is the day I talked to you about the woman rising." And when the world knows it as the Great American Solar Eclipse of August the 21st of 2017, that was the end of the matriarchal value society system, and it was the rise of the matriarchal value society system. And what happened in the fall of 2017? The Me Too movement started. It was the rise of the matriarch. So that's why I'm honored to be working with my sister Sass, because she's very genuine human being who's open to understanding there's something going on in this world, and we're just hanging out, doing it together, and sharing life experiences and having a good laugh, a good belly laugh at it when we do. So, because you can't take life too serious and forget about. You can't be too spiritual and forget to have a human experience. So.
Absolutely. And I was so inspired by Gloria Allred yesterday, who was here for International Women's Day, and her 47-year fight for justice for girls and women, but also for minority groups who couldn't fight for themselves. She's just fought tirelessly. And she says, fighting for justice keeps you young. The lady is 82 and she looks 60. I'm serious. And she has the energy of someone who's 40. So it was unbelievable.
Yeah. When you do something you love and you don't stop doing it, and it can change. You don't have to love the same thing your whole dang life. You could find something else that you love. I think, it's all part of spirituality to me as well. Doing what you love.
Absolutely. So in conclusion, I hope that everyone enjoyed this taster of the LiLoHia series, which is now live, and we're sharing all the access to it in the show notes. You'll find it on all the social media channels, and if you follow LiLoHia, you'll be able to learn about the different events and different opportunities to continue to learn from these leaders, really, in the arts and entertainment space.
We are living in one of the most exciting times in human history, and we're just along for the ride. We're on a bus, a magic school bus that the creator is driving, and me and my sister are just out there just doing our thing and speaking creator's truth. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like we say, we're not here to convince anybody. We're not here not to convince anybody. It is what it is. If you don't want to listen to it, there's a button that just says off, and then to each their own.
Absolutely. It's all love, light, and gratitude, not judgment, fear, contempt. If this isn't for you, it isn't for you, and we respect that.
And we love you anyway. Yes.
We love you anyway, and we love Sass and Gerald, and thank you for starting this LiLoHia project, and I'm glad that I can be, somewhere on the bus along for the journey of it. And here to support it and help share the word, because it's helped me. Just the conversations I've had have helped me. So thank you very much, and we will share more information with you, and I hope everybody stays well.
We love you, Laura.
Love you, Laura. Hi, hi.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Where Work Meets Life. If you enjoyed this content, please rate and review the podcast, as that helps me get it out to more people. Visit my website at drlaura.live and sign up for my monthly e-newsletter full of tips and resources. Please engage with us on social media and check out the podcast summary for links to my psychology practices, Canada Career Counseling, Calgary Career Counseling, and Synthesis Psychology. Stay well.